Is my child ready for me to give that direction? Is my child in a state that is calm, that is focused, so I can tell him or her what to do? And remember to celebrate. No matter how small the progress is, you need to tell your child they have done a good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. You have done it after a long day at work. What's your thought on this for kids who are, tend to be visually and auditorily overly stimulating?
So you definitely have to meet them where they are. And we do know that sensory is one of the areas that presents a challenge. Thinking out loud, I think it's really start to look at first, is my child in the right state, meaning calm enough in the environment that I can give the command for the instructions. And so a lot of times when we do training, we kind of talk about don't say the words until the child is ready. And so the last time to do it when a child is deep into thought or doing some self-stimulatory may not be the best time to then try to give the command, especially if you're not face to face or closer to them in proximity. Things to consider is okay, is my child appear to be in the right state that they're able to listen. Another thing to think about, if your child's really high in sensory, how can we do the biology first? Little things that do help with sensory before we give the command. This is where we don't feel that a kid has to ask for everything. Sensory is very natural, it's very important. So finding positive ways to give it to them so that they feel whatever that stasis is for them, then gets you into plan B of giving out the commands. So if you have a high sensory kid, I'm going to try to do something that puts them some positive sensory work, things that, whether it's given by an occupational therapist or things that you observe that helps your child stay regulated, but the key word stays focused.
Hmm.
Because if you give them something and all of a sudden they're more dysregulated, and dysregulated just meaning they're so involved into the activity that they're not able to hear, then that's something that either wait till they're a little more regulated or create the environment where listening is easier, just becomes step one in the process. I don't give out any commands until step one is accomplished. So that might be the first step in direction following. How can I get the point where the child's able to listen, even just for a very short spurt? So my direction following might be the smallest, simplest thing. And that will kind of be the first step into building a longer bridge that I want to build.
I think one of the biggest takeaway message is felt like it's important for parents before you give a direction, hit the pause button. Imagine you have a remote in your hand and pause, asking yourself, is my child ready for me to give that direction? Is my child in a state that is calm, that is focused, so I can tell him or her what to do? I think that part is a part that parent can do. The planning part gonna have a huge impact on the success of a child's ability to follow directions.
Yes, I'm a big fan of word value, meaning I need to make sure that when I do approach, I want my words to have value to everyone that I'm talking to, but especially my child or if I'm a therapist, if my kid doesn't have a strong communication system. So I think the first half is my child ready. I think the second part is are you the user ready? If you're angry and frustrated, and like I said, you can give out commands, just not being as critical that the success rate's not going to be too high. And so just kind of, are you at the space where you can prompt correctly, set up the environment? And instead of environment is just eye contact, slow tone with a couple of visuals. So it doesn't have to be this heavy thing, but it needs to be some thought put into it before it happens, not just, I need this done right now. If you're in a rush to get your shoes, this is not the best time to say, this is what I'm going to work on this intervention. And so I think we only tend to work on direction following when there's like, we have to be out the door in 5 minutes, is probably not going to give you the best success rate. So it's really finding the time when both parties are fresh, you can do the prompts. And it's amazing when you kind of do that, you can get a lot faster growth in that skill. So I think just we don't keep in mind that we're only helping do these things in a time rush. is not the best way to teach a child.
I really enjoyed our conversation. I think that's a piece that we tend to forget a lot is we tend to focus so much on our kid, not so much like, okay, what is something I didn't do? And like myself, I felt the same way. A lot of times when I give my kids directions, my mind is on something else. And then I thought about, oh, time to put the dishes away. And then I tell my kid to do that. I was not even paying attention what they were doing at the moment when I was giving the direction. It's just so helpful even to myself. And let's move on to our last segment is the actionable step. In PC, we focus on something that parents can do at home. That's why we have 5 for 15 minutes. And in our book, we also talk a lot about the idea of small tasks. Start small. And what are the 1 or 2 things you can do this week so you do not feel overwhelmed? We already talked about have small steps and simple actions. Give me open, come here. We talk about pair directions and reinforcers. We talk about using visuals as a cue for the environment. Anything else parents should be aware of if they are start to try it out, say today, to teach direction following to their kid.
I like what you've laid out at the beginning. We start small. How can you pair it reinforcers and start to get with visuals? I think if we start to take the next steps past that, is really starting to build routine. Because if you think what direction followings are, it's kind of a how to execute the day. I need to do this activity, then I need to do this activity, then I need to do this activity. So this is where you think about that 5 for 15 minute push, maybe it's just optimizing a 15-minute routine and starting to go into the first 15 minutes after your child wakes up and just trying to build a better routine that kind of optimizes. And then you can ask a couple questions with embedded in the routine. So then that way you and your child can participate. It might give you some insight too. If your child's not following directions very early in the day, you could be more proactive versus kind of everyone feeling hurried and stressed. And then that can kind of be a rough day for both parties. And so simple routine. Snack time can be one around food. It could be around bedtime. But the more you start to practice some small routines, now you've embedded potential direction following in things that are happening every day. So maybe find the one direction following you want to do in a currently pre-built routine. I think helps you that you can not to stop everything, you're just kind of adding this extra layer. And so that's kind of the next step. And then kind of the final thing, if we're kind of doing the process, is every time your child starts to improve in their listening skills, improve in getting the activity, improve in following the instruction, find a way to celebrate. And so whether it's the hug, whether it's the encouragement, you have to let a human, any person know they're on the right track. And so I think a lot of times that's where if the activity itself is fun, it's kind of built into it. But really always look for simple ways to celebrate. Yeah, right. Hey, you put your shoes up. This is awesome. And then do the things that your child finds valuable and you find reinforcing. I think we don't celebrate enough. It's like, oh, thank you. You finally put away the shoes. Well, that's not going to reinforce the child to do that behavior again. And so all positive steps are kind of closed with a really good celebration.
It's instead of how many times do I have to tell you put away your shoes? It's just saying, oh my gosh, you did it. You did it. You put away your shoes right away when you get home. I love that. Before we wrap up, let's recap. We talk about teaching following direction is fundamental for your child's success. And we talk about the challenges, lower your expectation. This is not an easy skill for 3 to 5 year old. This is a skill that require a lot of prerequisite skill, the working memory, the inhibition, and to be able to stick with something. And as we discussed, even adults are not good at direction following, not to mention little ones. And we talk about some strategies you can use at home and starting small and using reinforcers and always think about, okay, if I ask my child to do something, is this actually something the child enjoys? And you want to have some reinforcers linked to that direction following and practicing within a daily routine and then make just a 1 to 3 goals that's easy, that's doable, so you do not feel overwhelmed. Our challenge for you this week, parents, is pick one routine, like snack time or getting dressed or come back from daycare, and try one of the strategies at home. And remember to celebrate, no matter how small the progress is. And you need to tell your child they have done a good job and give yourself a pat on the back. You have done it after a long day at work. And thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for letting us share our experience. And until next time, stay empowered, stay informed, and take care.
Thanks for watching. Are you ready for support? Look in the description below to book a free consultation call. We also have free downloadables from Parent Empowerment Coaching and our quest to help parents fight for 15 minutes. Stay empowered, stay informed. We'll talk again soon.